March 6, 2026, Undocumented Times, Issue 1, Volume 2. Our traditional burial funeral is dying out in Canada. Amongst the many uncertain aspects of life, death is the one certainty we anticipate, and the way we have confronted it and accepted it as humans has changed over time. As death has been experienced across different cultures and generations, it's no longer considered just a biological event, such as irreversible loss of brain function. It also is an emotional, social, cultural, and spiritual process. Typical funerals share several common elements or anchors that appear across cultures: significant symbols, a gathered community, ritual actions, a connection to the heritage, and the transition of the deceased. Canadians rethink funerals. Cremation has increased in popularity as a preferred death ritual for Canadians. In 2000, only 48% of Canadians chose cremation. However, by 2024, that number has increased to 76.7% and is projected to exceed to 80% by 2029. More than ever, Canadians are seeking ceremonies that are simpler, more affordable, and personalized. Some Canadians, around 75%, still use the word funeral. However, 3 out of 4 families now prefer terms like celebration of life or memorial. In a 2024 survey, Canadians were asked about the preferred characteristics of end-of-life ceremonies. The common responses were simplicity, casual, celebratory or joyous tone, and humor. These responses compared to only 38% who preferred traditional and more gloomy ceremonies. Interesting enough, millennials are encouraging this trend, with 71% of them wanting a ceremony that brings family and friends together. Celebrating life, not just mourning it. Across Canada, we see families who are embracing a death ritual that they call celebrations of life, which focuses less on mourning and more on remembering the joy that the deceased person brought to their lives. These ceremonies include music, storytelling of memories with the deceased, and describing the passion and interest of the deceased individual. This shift in how we view funerals reflects the global trends where death is celebrated as part of the life cycle. How other cultures celebrate the dead. New Orleans, the jazz funeral. New Orleans funerals combine African traditions with their local culture to perform a celebration of life. In New Orleans, music is an important part of their death rituals. The funeral procession begins with slow and sad funeral tunes as family and friends bring the deceased to the cemetery. After the burial, the atmosphere changes. Jazz music and upbeat rhythms begin with dancing, colorful umbrellas, and large crowds. Sometimes the funeral is joined by Singwanda, Linnea, who are anonymous people who happen to be on the street at that moment and join the funeral to celebrate the deceased's life. The ritual reflects the ideas that death is not just about grieving of a loss, but a combined effort to honor the deceased person's life. China, the Hungry Ghost Festival. The Hungry Ghost Festival occurs on the 15th day of the 7th lunar month. The festival's purpose is to show respect for ancestors as well as ritual care for spirits who lurk around the living world. During the festival, families offer food, incense, and paper items to the spirits. People also float lotus-shaped lanterns on water for spirits to use as a pathway to get back to the spirit world. There are also rules people must follow in the celebration, like avoiding black or red clothing and not walking alone at night. The festival shows that death is not the end of a person's presence. The dead are still remembered, and these rituals help keep family and community connections strong. Mexico, Dia de los Muertos. The Day of the Dead happens from October 31st to November 2nd, termed All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day. At this festival, families visit relatives' cemeteries to clean and decorate graves, as well as spend time remembering their loved ones with others. Many people also build altars called ofrendas in their homes or at gravesites. See image. These altars include candles, flowers, photos, and their favorite foods of the person who died. Pan de muerto, bread of the dead, fruits, chocolate, or tamales. The food is offered so that the spirits can enjoy the smell and be remembered by their families. Recipe for pan de muerto. Forget the egg sandwiches and potato casserole you usually see at a funeral. Instead, consider baking pan de muerto for your next death celebration. This sweet Mexican bread is traditionally placed on altars during the Day of the Dead to honor loved ones who have passed away. Prep time, 30 minutes. Cook time, 30 minutes. Rating 5 out of 5. Ingredients: 3.5 to 4 cups of all-purpose flour, 1/4 cup sugar, 2 1/4 teaspoon of active dry yeast, half teaspoon salt, half cup warm milk, 3 eggs, 1/4 cup butter softened, 1 teaspoon orange zest, 1 teaspoon vanilla. Toppings: melted butter and sugar. Instructions: mix warm milk, yeast, and a little sugar. Let sit 10 minutes. Second, add flour, remaining sugar, salt, eggs, butter, orange zest, and vanilla. Mix into dough. 3, knead until smooth, then let rise about 1 to 2 hours. 4. Shape into a round loaf and add dough strips on top to look like bones. 5. Bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 degrees Celsius for about 25 to 30 minutes. 6. Brush with butter and sprinkle sugar on top. For full recipe, visit the link. A new take on death rituals, the living funeral. Have you ever wondered what your funeral might look like? Who might attend? What stories they'd share? What food they would eat? Living funerals allow people to experience their own farewell while still alive, offering an opportunity for closure, reflection, and support from those around them. As her illness progressed, Miss T faced pain, fatigue, and social isolation, all of which reduced her ability to see friends and family. However, social connection was still really important to her, even on her deathbed. The at-home health team, consisting of a nurse, physician, and medical social worker, decided to work with Miss T to plan a living funeral that she would attend for herself. Surrounded by those closest to her, she shared stories, music, and letters to ensure that she left herself and her guests with a proper farewell. The results of this study showed that the funeral event boosted her social engagement, psychological resilience, and overall well-being. While less than 25% of those surveyed feel comfortable organizing a living funeral, awareness of the practice is growing, particularly among younger generations. The future of funerals, from cremations and celebrations of life to international festivals and living funerals, the ways in which we think about death and recognize it in Canada is changing. Traditional burial style funerals are no longer the only way to honor a loved one. Across cultures, people are embracing the idea that death can be a moment of remembrance, connection, and even joy. Canadians are increasingly adopting to this approach, where we are beginning to see new traditions that celebrate life and provide a meaningful closure for all. However, as we look into the future, one thing is certain: besides death, our relationship with death and the way we come to terms with it will vary across people and generations. Written by Brooklyn Gillespie.